Welcome to A Fistful of Lenses, the home of real-world lens reviews. In this episode, we'll be taking a closer look at the Konica AR 50mm f1.7 lens. A lens that was considered as one of the sharpest 50mm lenses on the market. But what about today? Does the lens still have what it takes, or has time caught up with it? Well, let's find out together. The lens optical formula is 6 elements in 5 groups. It accepts 55mm filters and has a close focus of 55cm. It has 6 aperture blades and weighs in at just 210 grams. The lens came to market in 1976. So what was the world like in 1976? Well, let's take that trip together down memory lane. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 lander spacecraft arrived safely on Mars. The film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest wins an Oscar, and Happy Days was one of the most popular TV shows. It was also the year when a great uncle of mine made a New Year's resolution to become fit and healthy. He was a large man whose ideas of a balanced diet was 1 steak and kidney pie in each hand. So that was the world when this lens came to market. How will it fare today? I'll be using the Fuji X-T1 and the Sony A7R Mark III. We'll be reviewing stills and video from the Highlands of Scotland to the Devon coast, and then back to Dunraven Bay on the South Wales coast. All the footage will be straight out of camera, so as not to disguise the character, strengths and any weaknesses of this old lens. So as we look at the video and stills taken with this lens, let's get a bit of background information about this old optic. This particular version, as I mentioned earlier, came to market in 1976. Slightly lighter than the first version, and with a close focus of 55cm rather than the 45cm of the first version. But more importantly, there seems to be no change to the optical formula. And why would they change it? This lens gathered rave reviews and was said to be one of the sharpest 50mm lenses ever made. In the camera magazines of the early 1970s and mid-1970s, it was referred to as an optically superior lens, and a match for any 50mm lens ever made, regardless of cost. But that's all in the past. What about today? Well, for one thing, Konica lenses in general don't command the high price tag of some of the better known manufacturers. So there's a real opportunity here to get an excellent lens at a bargain price. So how does the lens perform today, almost 50 years after its introduction? Well, I can confirm it's a sharp lens, with good contrast and low chromatic aberration. And Konica lenses have a nice colour palette. Not that I'm saying that this lens is perfect. No lens is, and certainly no vintage lens. It will flare when shot into the light, but this can be averted with a bit of common sense or simply used creatively. So what can we say about Konica in general? It's interesting to note that Konica was founded in 1873. That's even before Kodak. Until 2006, it could boast of being the oldest camera manufacturer in Japan. It's a shame that Konica are no longer in the camera industry, as Konica had a rich history and produced some great lenses over the years. If you're into your camera history as I am, it's a familiar story. Back in the 1960s, 1970s and early 80s, there were many manufacturers to choose from. In comparison today, we are limited to just a handful. So now let's move around the coast to Torcross. This and surrounding villages were evacuated in 1943 to practice for the D-Day landings. In 1944, a live fire exercise nearby went horribly wrong, resulting in hundreds of American servicemen losing their lives to friendly fire. The coast around here is beautiful and tranquil, and it's hard to believe that it was once the scene of such a tragedy. The Sherman tank at Torcross is a poignant reminder of how times can change. So as we say goodbye to the Devon coast and head for South Wales, we need to ask ourselves a question, and that is, why do we go to the trouble and expense and sometimes the disappointment of trying out vintage lenses? After all, they're far from perfect. Well, one reason is the vintage lenses can have their own unique colour signature and character. This particular lens has a colour signature pushed towards the blue end of the spectrum, and yet produces colours with a radiance to them without going over the top. The bokeh at times can appear a little busy. All these factors and more can help your photography and cinematography look just a little different. And there's been another benefit to using vintage lenses. Using vintage glass has encouraged me to experiment more based on unique character of the lens I'm using at that time. And it's broken the obsession I once had with pixel peeping. Now I'm less interested in the image quality and more interested in the quality of the image. As a result, I enjoy my photography far more. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and ring that bell. And then who knows, you might see me out there in the real world, snapping away happily with a fist full of lenses. Until next time, bye for now.